Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us tonight on episode 15, season 5 of the Standoff on New Zealand Sport Radio with Brad and Richie. We're here live every Wednesday on Facebook and YouTube throughout the season. Evening, Richie. Well, our first round without the Warriors, and it produced a series of unpredictable results, which affected a lot of our tipping. How are you, and how was your long weekend?
Hey Brad, yeah, I'm well, thanks, mate. I didn't. My long weekend was okay. I was actually on call for work, but it was relatively quiet um, over the weekend. It's not until sort of Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday today I got real busy. So the weekend itself was good. Just didn't have that Warriors game to look forward to, as we were talking about before. Yeah, it sucks. I need a Warriors game.
Yeah, I understand that completely. And while we're here live on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m., you can also catch our show at your convenience on iHeartRadio and Spotify. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. As always, we're going to cover everything you need to know in the week that was rugby league, including our top stories of the week, a review of the round 13 matches. We'll then stop and answer some questions from you guys, as well as some questions we've prepared for each other. We'll then preview State of Origin, which is happening tonight. And then discuss who we're picking in round 14 before ending the night with a quick recap of the Super League. And I'm running the show tonight. The inmates are running the asylum. Paul is away sick. So if we're a bit laggy with popping up comments and that's my fault. But we'll survive, and we'll try to get everyone out of here early enough so you can get ready for Origin. But remember to send us comments and questions throughout the show. And we may as well jump straight into the stories, Richie.
Yeah, let's do that.
So first one was pretty sad. Leeds legend Rob Burrow passed away at the age of 41. He's had a long battle with motor neuron disease. In his playing career, he won 8 Super League titles, 2 Challenge Cups over the 17 years. Did so much for making awareness of the disease he was with in the time since. And I've never heard anyone say a bad thing about the guy. Very, very sad for him and his family, but rest in peace, I guess, is all I can say. But you got any thoughts on Rob?
Yeah, it's just sad news. He fought a brave battle. It's a horrible thing, motor neuron disease. Seen a few rugby league and rugby players have it. Go through that battle. Carl Webb was one. We've had Union players have it too, and it's not the nicest thing to see once fit athletes sort of just deteriorate like that and then lose sort of all function of their body. So, fantastic player, legend of the game over there, and just in general, just very sad for Rob and his family.
Yeah, so great news to start the news section off. Sorry for bringing the mood down, but I thought with everything he's contributed both on and off the field, I thought it was only right to kick off in his memory. So yeah, we'll move on now. I don't have a segue out of something so serious, so we'll go to the next one. Dylan Edwards has been ruled out of State of Origin 1 tonight. He had a quad injury, which has seen James Tedesco make his return. I know there was a lot of back and forth in media afterwards, with some people saying like he'd be embarrassed coming back into the camp. I don't think it would be that case. I think he'd be stoked because it was a position he wanted already. But yeah, what's your take on it? You're the New South Wales tragic.
I don't know about tragic. Kiwi's tragic. Yeah, I don't see why he'd be moping about it. It's over there. It's the highest honour to play for the state, and I think while he'd be disappointed for Dylan Edwards to miss out, who earned his chance, I think Tedesco will more than gladly step up and do his best for New South Wales.
Yeah, and Nicholas has asked a question. We'll just Paul's not here to keep us in charge. I'm just going to answer it now. He said he wanted to know, why do I choose to support Queensland? When I was younger, my stepmother's family lived in Brisbane, and that was the team they followed. So as a young kid, that's the team I picked because my family was Queensland supporters, and it was It's just I'm a stick it kind of guy. Once I have a team, I don't change. So um, even there was a lot of downs in the Andrew Johns era that you could have jumped off, but I stayed true. With Richard making fun of me in some of those years, and I've kind of reaped the rewards. I think more often than not now. But
Hey, mate, I speaking of lean years, I had to go through 8 of them.
yeah, yeah.
That
So it's different. I can't speak for every Kiwi that watches State of Origin, but I feel like I've got a team in the race. But if Queensland gets smashed tonight, I'm not going to be upset about it. Like if the Warriors or the Kiwis lost,
yeah,
there's like I've got a team I follow, but I don't follow it that in depth to where I am very emotional about it. But I'm hoping my team wins because then it gives me something I can make fun of Richie about next week. So, um, and Jacko's made a comment saying Mark Graham's son's making a movie about Mark's life from humble beginnings to the height of league and after, which is something we'll look forward to.
that's pretty
That
cool.
would be quite interesting. He's a legend of the game, so it would be nice to get an insight into that. We'll move on. Benji Marshall's addressed the criticism that was thrown his way that we talked about last week about going to Fiji for a holiday during the bye week. I've got his quote here. He said, I told all my staff to have time off, mentally freshen up, and not even think about footy. In my view, it's important to recharge and refresh. Do you have anything?
I'm with him.
Yeah,
Having worked all my entire adult life, you get times where you need time off and refresh. I know he's in a lot higher paid and higher profile job than I've ever had, but yeah, I think the media just needs it. The media seem to want to go at Benji this year. I don't know
they
why.
they they love sticking at the Tigers. I get it too. I talked with you before we jumped on. The long weekend, I went away. I went away Friday, Saturday, came back Sunday, and then I watched all of the round on Monday. I took a break away, took my poor partner who lives on a rugby league schedule for 6 to 7 months of the year. So having the Warriors bye week gave me a time to take her away and actually acknowledge her existence for a bit. So I get the taking a step back from league. Still watched it all, still kept up, at a later date. But sometimes it's good just to get your head right and just get it ready for, there's still a long way to go. There's like another, 14 rounds, I think. I'm not good with maths. But yeah, and Jacko said, just something for Junos to talk about. James Graham went way over the top, like he dislikes Benji or Kiwis or has an axe to grind. Yeah, I like sometimes some of the things Graham says, and then I completely disagree with a lot of others. He just, I don't know. I don't want to say too much because he's a prop, and props are the smartest men on the field. So it might just be a bit of CTE. I'm not sure. But we'll see. We'll see if the Tigers bounce back this week. They got a bit of a tough matchup, so we'll see if the rest and relaxations helped. We'll move on. Interesting. I think this one was going to be a bit of a discussion for us, but Andrew Johns has come out and spoken about Reid Marnie and said he thinks he needs to change his ways. Otherwise, he'll only be remembered as an on-field pest when he instead could be an origin-worthy hooker. What's your take on Reid and his little pesty ways that he's been getting into this year?
I don't know that he's going to be a origin-worthy hooker while he's got Harry Grant and Ben Hunt still playing, but he probably the next cab off the rank. I don't think he really cares if he's remembered as a pest or not. He's just a competitor and doing, I guess, what he does to try and get a competitive edge. And it's baiting people when you look at Jack Etherington and Saifidi.
Saifidi in the weekend?
Just on the weekend. And we don't live in the days where you've got on field justice and big men able to sort those people out with the hands. You can't do that anymore. So while you can't do that, there's going to be guys like Reed Money doing what they can with their mouth.
Yeah, I hate pests like most people, but unfortunately, it's working. You saw it, and he baited Saifiti enough to get Saifiti sent to the bin. And he learned from the Hetherington situation where he also didn't get sent to the bin. So if it's working, they're going to stick there. And there are some players out there that have kind of made that's their reputation, and they seem to be doing all right. You look at Innes, he's still got a career, and that's all he was a pest.
Yeah.
You will eventually, I think, with most of those pests, you will eventually get to a breaking point where one player is willing to go to the bin for 10 to zip their lip, and we're just got to see which team and which player is going to be the one that does it. That is the only way you shut a pest up. Unfortunately, it's just gone, which is why you've seen the likes of Reed, Luai, and that get into these niggly ways when they weren't allowed to before. But yeah, I don't see Reed changing. Jacko said Innes used to play for the Doggies, so a pattern emerges. Yeah, Reed wasn't really into this before he put on that Doggies jersey. You never really saw a lot of pestiness in him when he was playing for the Eels.
He's definitely got worse.
Yeah. So, but yeah, he won't. A leopard doesn't change their spots. He's found something that works. It's not costing him a spot in the team. So until there's a detriment to his own performance, I don't think he's gonna change. Especially if it works and helps his team get an edge. So, but I thought it was interesting to see Joey come out like that. Next bit, it's the Rabbitohs coach that was recently sacked, Jason Demetrio, has made his interest in the Eels coaching job known. However, reports are out that the Eels have shortlisted 5 contenders. I think on the notes I gave you 6, but it was restricted to 5 now. The rumoured list are former Wallabies coach Michael Cheika, New South Wales coach Michael Maguire, Josh Hannay, Jason Riles, and current interim coach Trent Barrett, with Hannay and Riles considered by most as the front runners. Looking at that list, do you have any issues with any of the names, or do you have anyone that you would be picking straight away?
Yeah, I'd be shaving that list by a couple again. Demetrio didn't make the list, so I'd be shaving Barrett off.
Yep.
Right off the bat. And I think most of the others on the short list could be worth a punt. Cheika's the oddball one, given that most of his coaching experiences come from rugby union, but I think any of the other options, whoever interviews best, worth a crack.
Yeah, for me, it would be Riles, Hannah, and Cheika would be the 3 in that order. I think Riles, he basically had the Dragons job, and it was him that pulled out because he said he didn't feel like he was ready to take that Dragons team. Admittedly, I think this Eels team's a better roster, so I think he could come in and do the good job. It's really hard to say because he hasn't been tested yet, but there's a couple of untested guys the past few years that are doing okay now with obviously Andrew Webster, Serraldo. We were making fun of him a lot last year, but I think he's turned things around with the Doggies. So
yep.
Everyone doesn't hit the ground running, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. But yeah, I'd probably pencil in Riles if it was me.
Yeah.
But yeah. Time will tell. I'm sure they want to get it done sooner rather than later. They've got a few Eels players that are kind of waiting on if they're going to extend with the club or not until they know who their coach is going to be. So I'm sure they want to make a decision as soon as possible. And last bit of news, I made it short because I know I didn't want us to go too long. The Panthers are rumored to be looking at sacking Taylor May. He has been asked to front the Panthers. I can't remember if it was this Tuesday or next Tuesday. The article was a bit inconclusive. There's been no news today on his position, but apparently he's been asked to front the board and fight for his job. They've come out and said it's not to do with the current domestic violence charges, but several incidents from the past few years before this. I guess you could say poor timing, but those incidents beforehand, most of them were before they offered him an extension. So I don't know. I don't want to put the tinfoil hat this early on in the episode, mate. But yeah, what do you think?
It's got to be what's going on now in conjunction with.
I think
other things he's done in the past, but
straw that broke the camel's back kind of deal.
100%.
He's a talented player, but it just seems to be a lot of trouble, and is it more trouble than what he's worth for? It might be different if he was, $1 million a year front rower, a halfback or something, but he's a centre which you can replace, as we've seen the Panthers do in the past. So I think unless he comes in and is willing to compromise on, adding some brain matter in the most polite way, and sorting his shit out, I don't know if he'll be playing, and I don't know if any other team would quickly go and grab him. Jacko said Panthers need to be careful. The last thing a club needs is to be sued for something like unfair dismissal. Yeah, that's always a grey area, and especially with Clint Newton always waiting in the wings, ready to strike about the player's well-being. He might avoid this one with the current, police charges. He might not want to be seen advocating for someone that potentially could end up going to prison for domestic violence. But yeah, time will tell. You've got to pick it. I guess it looks like the Panthers are doing all the right steps to kind of avoid that by bringing him to the board, letting him plea his case. I don't know. Needs to be a bit. Imagine if it was like American sport where you just turn up one day and told you're no longer there. But yeah, I feel like this is going to be a story that'll go on. We might have an update next week on if they've come to a decision straight away. So we'll probably talk about it then. But yeah, that was all the news I really had. So we can move on to signings. Got 3 that I found. I think there was a couple more that came in today, but these are the 3 are now down. Cowboys have done 2. They've extended Cohen Hess and Tom McCarley until the end of 2027. You got any thoughts on that? I think they're good signings. I don't see either of those players really creating a buying panic in the open market. But they're handy players to have. So
yep,
I think
100%.
Yeah.
Good.
And then the Seagulls have signed former Tiger hooker Jake Simpkin, effective immediately until the end of 2026. He's basically come in as injury cover. He's a handy player when he's given the opportunity. We just got to see if Manly does that. And I think they might be looking at him as a Lawton replacement, since Lawton's leaving at the end of the year.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So that's it there. Injury award, there were so many, but I've picked 4 big ones. So Isaiah Papali'i from the Tigers, he had surgery on a syndesmosis injury. He's going to miss the next 6 to 8 weeks. Big blow for the Tigers, but they're currently not trending that well anyway. So you got any thoughts on ice?
Yeah, not ideal for the Tigers, who they can't buy a win at the minute. So losing a player of Papali'i's quality, although he's he's not at the sort of levels he was reaching at Parramatta, but still not ideal to lose. Still an important part of the forward pack there. Yeah.
And then Josh Adokar from the Doggies has a high-grade hamstring tear and is going to miss the next 8 to 10 weeks.
Yeah, that was a bummer. He scored a couple of tries before doing it too, and he's
had a horrible year this year.
He has. Injuries-wise, he's really struggled.
Every time he comes back, he plays well, and then he gets injured again. So it's really unfortunate for him and for the Doggies. And then the Eels have 2. Ryan Madison It's hard to understand what's going on because the Eels came out today and just said it was a knee issue. But earlier in the week, they were worried about his head, saying he was getting neurological exams because he's experiencing dizziness and headaches all the time. So I don't know what's going on. Is it his head or his knee?
It's a knee a cover-up, you reckon?
Well, no, because the Eels were talking about the head stuff earlier in the week. They just changed tact. So I don't know what's going on. But
maybe a bit of both.
Yeah, he's out for an undisclosed amount of time. And then Bailey Simonson potentially is out for the rest of the year after doing a partial ACL tear. There is a chance he can rehab it and be back this year. But I'm just going to check now in case there was an update this afternoon. Oh, yep. No, he is out for the season. So he does need season-ending reconstruction surgery. So he is gone.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. And then the NRL website is still saying Ryan Madison's got persistent headaches. So they're still talking about the head as well. But yeah, it's a big blow for the Eels. You know, they just got two of their guys back and now they've lost another two. And I think Bailey Simonson's been playing pretty well for them in what's been trying times.
He's a handy player. He play a couple of different positions and normally plugs the hole pretty well. So it's a bummer for the Eels.
Yeah. And that's it for the injury award. So we go to Naughty Boy Corner. This is going to be the shortest early segment we've done. And Paul's going to be so surprised since he's not here. Because Naughty Boy Corner, there's none. No bans. All players avoided suspensions and received fines. We could probably add an hour if I went through every fine there was because there's quite a lot. But yeah, no bans. Are you surprised? Did you think Jared or Jacob might have got some time on the sidelines?
Yeah, there were a couple those two, but yeah, there were definitely a couple over the weekend that would have been pushing the limits. But yeah, hey, it is what it is. No thug life, like Nicholas said.
Yeah, and Bjorn said it would have been better not picking last week. Yeah, after we go through the games, we'll discuss the picks because there weren't anyone that could really be proud of their effort. I was saying with Richie, I'll spoil a bit. The people at the bottom two people in our comp have given up and aren't picking, and they got the highest scores because it picks the away team, and because it was all upsets, most of the away teams won. So I think they got four games only missing the first game, which was the Eels home game. So they got every other game right. Doesn't help them; they're still stuck on the bottom, but. Yeah, it is what it is. So we'll kick into the shortened round, mate. On Thursday night, we had the Eels defeating the Sharks 34-22.
Yeah, we saw this one coming, didn't we, Brad?
We did. I wish Paul was here because he was giving us so much shit last week about picking the Eels.
Well, it was the one game we saw coming.
One game you got right.
Yeah. It was 6 tries to 4. For the Eels, Will Penasini, Mike Acevo had 2, Junior Bolo, Bailey Simonson, who we were just speaking about, and Dylan Brown. And for the Sharks, Sione Katoa, William Kennedy, Daniel Atkinson, and Sione Katoa grabbed another one.
Yeah, we've been saying the past few weeks, mate, that the Eels desperately needed Gutho and Moses back, and if they had any chance of turning things around, and you could see the immediate impact. From both of them. The team looked more sharp on attack with Will Penasini causing plenty of chaos for the Sharks. And I think Gutho led running meters for the Eels. And while they still made a lot of errors in this game, it was definitely a step in the right direction for them. They just got to make sure they keep those two healthy. But your thoughts on the Eels?
Yeah, not too dissimilar to you, Brad. The difference that Moses and Gutherson make to this side is immeasurable. They look far more dangerous with the ball and more composed without the ball with those two playing. They just, I guess, having those two in the team lifts the level of everybody else around them as well. So just completes their lineup, and they showed what they can do, with their two best players on the park.
And your take on the Sharkies?
I thought it was a tough game for the Sharks without Hines in particular, against a team with nothing to lose, with their two best players returning. still had some nice moments. I thought Kennedy's try, where he started the play, fed off to Mulatalo, who made a nice break and then fed back to Kennedy. It was probably one of the tries of the season so far. So tough result, but I'm sure once Origin's all said and done and they've got a full complement of players to choose from, they'll still be right up there.
Yeah, I find it hard to use that excuse now with how the Warriors have gone the past few weeks, but it is affecting a lot of teams. But yeah, the wheels have started to wobble with the Sharks. Like it felt like 3 weeks ago I was basically throwing their flag up saying they're the team at the moment after some divisive wins, but it was another loss with plenty of points conceded, beaten in most stats. And just it looked like they had no defensive structure. Did put some nice tries on, as you mentioned, without their star halfback. But they need to work on their defense if they want to remain a top four side. Because even with Nico, you think that game last week with Nico out there, they still conceded so many points and he disappeared. So he's not the answer to fix all their problems. But if they can reduce the points conceded, I think they'll still do well. Your player to stand out, I think we picked the same guy.
Yeah, I think we have in a lot of the games this week. But Mitch Moses already waxed lyrical about him. He's makes a massive difference to this team.
Yeah, I had to go with the flat check bully, mate. He's definitely like the lightning spark for them. So I thought he had a great game back. I was expecting him to perhaps be a bit rusty, but you can see he clearly wants that light blue jersey. So he came out with his best foot forward. So we'll move on to Friday's game, the first upset, and by a decisive manner, the Bulldogs defeating the Knights 32-2.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's so much an upset. The score, or the margin certainly is.
The margin's the upset.
The margin certainly is. But yeah, 6-0 here. Josh Adokar with 2 tries, Jacob Preston with 2, Josh Curran and Bronson Sherry. All 6 tries scored by the Bulldogs. Nothing for the Knights.
Yeah, dominant performance from the Doggies here. They looked deadly almost every time they touched the ball. The forwards were making massive dents in the Knights' defensive line and created plenty of scoring opportunities. And despite not being challenged much, I thought they defended with gusto. And all of this without Matt Burton. The Bulldog side just continues to prove me wrong after I didn't give them much hope of being successful this year. But yeah, 32 points is great. It's the 2 conceded, I think, is the real big thing there. But your take on the Doggies?
Yeah, awesome performance from the Dogs. They impressed me more and more. Despite losing Adokar after he scored 2 tries, they continued to pour on points. And although they missed a fair number of, I don't remember the exact number. I did see it earlier in the week. Although they missed a fair number of first-up tackles, their scramble defence was outstanding. Hence the number 2 beside the Knights points column. Jacob Preston was one great example of. I think Marju was about to score in the corner and he came across and made a try saver. Just that kind of stuff. And the defence has really come on leaps and bounds this year.
Yeah, I think scrambling D is underrated. You can have a game. You see sometimes with the Panthers, they'll have a game where they miss 30 or 40 tackles, but they concede 2 tries because the tackles they missed were the first up ones. Someone else was there to cover. There's not really a stat to cover that, unfortunately. But yeah, your take on the Knights, it'll probably be pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, they've been really gritty whilst Kalen Pong has been out. This is the first time they've looked flimsy in the past month. I thought they looked really one-dimensional with the ball and almost playing frustrated at times, probably because they had Reid Marnie in their ear. Just not a good night for the Knights.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with the Knights here. They still had a pretty strong side if you looked at the 17, and they had 20 minutes against 12 men. With the Doggies having 2 sin bins. But they couldn't fire a shot. They made 15 errors and looked hopeless when they managed to actually hold on to the ball. Putting it bluntly, it was an embarrassing performance in front of their loyal home crowd. I think second game in a row, we picked the same guy, right?
Yeah, and we just spoke about him, Preston.
Yeah.
Couple of tries, fantastic try saver, Amaju. I just thought he's a real standout.
Yeah, he got a double as well.
Yeah,
He was really solid on both sides of the ball, which is what you can ask for. He's not a superstar by any stretch of the imagination, but he gives it 100%. And when things go his way, he can be a game breaker. So, yeah, I thought he was fantastic in this game.
yep.
We'll move on to the first game on Saturday, if we even want to bother talking about it, mate.
What a game.
I saw Bjorn was talking about it earlier, but the Dragons somehow beating the Panthers 22-10.
Yeah, 4-2 in the Dragons' favour here. For the Dragons, Toby Couchman, Tyrell Sloan, Matthew Feangai, and Raymond Faitala Mariner. And for the Panthers, Paul Alamotti and Jesse McLean.
Yeah, Dragons look set for another disappointing loss after being behind 10-0 at halftime. But they flipped the switch in the second half with some massive efforts from their pack and their strike backs. Despite playing an understrength Panthers, this is a big scout for the Dragons and could be a timely confidence booster for them to string some wins together and climb the ladder. Everyone's talking about the Panthers and like how understrength they were, but this was a Dragons side without Ben Hunt, and usually without Ben Hunt, they don't win. They also didn't have Lomax.
No Lomax either. Yeah.
Yeah, so I put that right back to square one. So as much as I dislike it, I thought they were fantastic in the second half. But they did more than enough in that first half to keep the Panthers honest. But yeah, very impressed by the Dragons, which I don't like saying. But your thoughts on the Dragons?
No Jaden Sawer either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rough start for the Dragons. But apparently whatever Flano said at halftime worked an absolute treat. A little bit funny. I don't know if you saw the press conference, Brad. One of the reporters asked, put it to Flano, I want to know what you said at halftime. And he came back, no, you don't. Wasn't pretty. So he obviously had a crack at halftime, and it worked a treat. In the end, a really great win for the Dragons, taking full advantage of a weakened Panthers team. Although, as you said, they're weakened themselves as well.
Yeah. Your take on the Panthers?
Yeah, tough game for the Panthers. You can excuse them somewhat, given the players they have out. I thought they may still have the edge. Obviously, I tipped the Panthers, but yeah, it's maybe you're right, Brad. Maybe the more players, year by year, the more players they lose, bit by bit, their depth is being chipped away at, and it's hard to cover so many players being out nowadays.
Yeah, well, you think it wasn't that long ago that they weren't even worried about Origin when they lost everybody. They just kind of went out there and everyone stepped up, but it's a bit different now. They were missing plenty of talent, as we've already talked about. But you look at their 1-17, they still had enough stars to be competitive. But it was a slow and steady first half, and they just lost control after that. Normally renowned for their defense, they missed 50 tackles here. And they just couldn't keep up with the Dragons. Not much to take from this, as we know the Panthers are a different beast when all the big names return. But yeah, I think it was another case where they let the foot off the gas, like I've been saying the past few weeks. And then by the time they realized this was a game, they just couldn't get back into it. Third game in a row, we picked the same guy.
I changed, mate.
Oh, did you change? Who have you gone with?
I couldn't bring myself to go. I couldn't bring myself to go every game the same as you. I did pencil in Raymond Faitala Mariner. It was outstanding, but I changed to Matthew Feangai. Got a try. His stat line was pretty impressive as well. I think he went over 170 meters and broke 7 or 8 tackles. He was really great. I would have went RFM, but I knew you were going that way, and we can't go all the same for the whole
We
weekend.
can. We can, man. It's fine. Yeah, I went with Raymond Vitale Mariner. I thought he was amazing in this game. I
Yeah,
bet a
really
few of
was.
the Bulldogs fans would have been asking where this guy was for them. But it's definitely his best game in years. He was just dangerous with the ball. Um, I was meant to write down the stats. He had something like 11 or 12 tackle breaks on his own,
Mm.
which is very rare for a player of his stature in his current track of his career. But yeah, I thought he was fantastic. But yeah, old Matty was a good shout out too. So I'll give you that one.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we'll move to the next game, which was the Raiders defeating the Dolphins 26-25 in Golden Point.
Great game it was too. 4 tries apiece. I'll start with the Dolphins. Jeremy Marshall-King, Jack Bostock, Jake Avarillo, and Kurt Donahue. Raiders, Xavier Savage, Ata Mariota, Elliot Whitehead, and KO Weeks.
Yeah, hard fought win for the Raiders here. The game was close from start to finish. It almost felt at a point they were just going try for try. And while the Raiders' hands did let them down at times, they just hung in there and never gave up. And when they needed someone to step up, Rapana did in a massive way with a field goal to force Golden Point and then another one to win it. And I thought it was a very impressive win here, especially away from home.
Yeah. I'm not really adding anything new to what you said, Brad. Yeah, great result for the Raiders in a mighty arm wrestle. Jordan Rapana proved clutch, kicking his first ever field goal, his first career field goal to force extra time, and then his second to snatch the win. Crazy when you think about how many games he's played and kicked his first 2 field goals in that situation. So pretty clutch from Jordan there, but it was a great team win from the Raiders.
Yeah, and your take on the Dolphins?
Yeah, unlucky for the Dolphins here. They could easily have come away with the result. Probably copped a harsh call or two as well, which didn't help. When I'm looking at Golden Point, I didn't see a lot wrong with what happened when Izako went for a field goal and they got called for blocking the kick pressure. I didn't see too much wrong with that. If I'm being honest, it wasn't really that bad in my opinion. But yeah, is what it is. Yeah. What did you think of it?
Yeah, it's that new rule they brought in. So it's still a bit of an area where you look at it and go, nah, there's nothing wrong with that. But the new rules, it is by the rules, it is correct. The call they made
seemed harsh.
But again, it's still harsh, especially in that type of situation. Yeah, I feel for them. But yeah, I don't have my skin in the game. If that was the Warriors in that situation, as we always say, we'd be sitting here for an hour talking about how corrupt the NRL officials are or something. But yeah, it is harsh, but it's just how it is sometimes, unfortunately. But yeah, tough loss for the Dolphins here. They look to have it won twice. As we already mentioned, once in regular time and then again in that Golden Point, only to have that denied. Hard to fault much with their performance other than that, though. It was such a close match. I think if you want to be a prick and like try to nail down like things that went wrong, I'd say work on the discipline and ice the opportunities when you get them. It's a vague statement, but there was not much else. They nailed all their conversions. They got, they scored 4 tries, which should be enough in most games to win. Hard to pick faults. So I'm going with discipline and not icing those field goals properly. Your play to stand out. We picked the same here again, or have you changed?
No, I went Joey Tapine, and I thought he was very much worthy of the player that stood out. Just massive effort, 51 tackles. I think you wrote that stat down, Brad.
I wrote the stats down. Yeah.
Thanks for helping me out. But he was massive. Even in Golden Point, still having the energy to pile on pressure and some of those field goal opportunities. So yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I picked him as well. He had 51 tackles, so he led the Raiders in tackles, and then he also had 216 running meters, which is a great day at the office for his position at the best of times.
Mm,
Admittedly, helped by going over the 80, but still, you're not expecting big meters out of your big front rowers in Golden Point when they're a bit tuckered out. But yeah, showed a lot of heart and thought he was great. I think Rapana could have been a, a pick here with essentially winning the game for them, but yeah, I had to go with Joseph. So
yeah.
well done, and we'll go to the last game. I feel like look, it's not even an hour yet, and we've already done the reviews, mate. We are on fire. Um, the Cowboys defeating the Roosters 18-16.
Yeah, 3 tries to 2 here for the Cowboys. Braden Burns, Scotty Drinkwater, and Fini Fuyaki. And for the Roosters, Terrell May and Dom Young.
Yeah, it took a bit of time to get into this match for the Cowboys, but they just made the most of the Roosters' mistakes. Plenty of players had big games, but I thought it was Jason Tomalolo's best game in quite some time. He got 54 minutes, which is a bit rare in the Todd Payton era. And he got a truckload of meters for them. And basically, the Cowboys just piled pressure on the Roosters until they folded. With plenty of Origin players missing. If we talked about it last week, Peyton was crying about it last week, about how many players he had out, and it's not fair. It didn't look like they missed them too much. Help, they've got a superstar in Drinkwater to kind of steady the boat for them, but it was just the result they needed as they look to play the Warriors this week, potentially without a lot of those names that are playing Origin. So it'll be the right confidence booster for them going into this game, which is turning out to be a real must-win for both sides, as cliche as that is becoming. But yeah, your take on the Cowboys?
Yeah, definitely a slow first half. Trailing 14-4 at half time. But I thought they did a great job to turn the tide, especially with the amount of troops they had missing Origin players. A lot of really quality players. Robson, Nanai, Val Holmes, Dearden, basically the whole core of their team. So I thought it might hurt the Cowboys more than it would the Roosters. But yeah, they did really well. I think a lot of people have written them off, myself included. So to come out with a result was it's a good result for the Cowboys season.
Yeah, and your take on the Roosters?
This one was another classic game of two halves that happened over the weekend. We saw a couple of those. They started well enough, and the back end of the first half picked up a couple of tries to kick out their lead. But I don't know what happened in the second half, but Trent Robinson will definitely not be happy, and they'll see this one as a big missed opportunity.
Yeah, he needs to call Flano and ask him what he's saying in the sheds and take it down as a note. I thought the Roosters were cooking in the first half, but they just fell apart in the second, as you said. Their hands letting them down, letting the Cowboys off the hook. Manu's last minute switch to fullback didn't have the effect that many expected, with him not really having as much impact as he has in the past. A very winnable game for them, and they really only have themselves to blame. And it could be a game they regret letting slip come the back end of the season when you're fighting for, a better ladder position. But yeah, once again, did you pick the same guy as me? Or you've changed it?
No, it's Scotty Drinkwater.
Yeah, I went with Drinkwater as well.
Yeah, one of the big game players that was still there, and yeah, he made it count and was one of the difference makers.
Yeah. So that is the round. That is the quickest we've ever been. There's not really much more I can say about Drinkwater that you didn't just already say. So we'll bring up the ladder because unlike Paul, I don't know how to do this in the right order. So we're starting with the ladder this time. I want to see if I can zoom. That's going to have to do. I don't know what I'm doing, guys. You do the. I think I did top 8 last week, so you do it this week.
Okay, I'll go top 8. Melbourne have now moved into first place. Cronulla have now dropped into second. Penrith have dropped into third. Dolphins remain in fourth. Broncos have moved up to sixth. Canberra up to sixth. Manly in seventh. Roosters down to eighth place.
Yeah, and then the rest, we've got the Bulldogs at 9th. The Cowboys have gone up to 10th. Knights have come down to 11th. Dragons stay the same at 12. Warriors stay the same at 13. Titans stay the same at 14. Parramatta stay the same at 15. Tigers stay the same at 16. And Rabbitohs stay the same at 17. I think there was some stat that they basically said everyone from 9 down got points last week. Which has really helped things out, which is also why you've seen a few of those teams haven't really moved on the ladder. But it's still super tight. Like, we've got the Roosters, Doggies, Cowboys, Knights, and Dragons all on 14 points. So they're all technically tied 8th. And then you've got the Warriors 1 point behind them. And then those guys are all just 1 or 2 points out of cementing a spot in the 8. It's that close, and there's a few games this week that could potentially help shuffle. So we'll see. But I'm happy with that. I'm still putting a line under the Warriors for where guys that can make the 8. I still think the Titans, Eels, Tigers, and that are just too far back.
Yeah.
3 points behind the Warriors. They could prove me wrong, but that's still where I'm sticking my line. But we'll move on to the thing everyone's been dreading talking about, the tipping. You can't see it that well there, but the only good news is I'm now number 1 with my amazing score of 1 point. Shuddy FC is tied on the same amount of points, but a second. He also got 1. Rocking Horse Road got 0 games. ACT Hellcat got the high score of competing tippers with 2. Simon only got 1. So sorry, Simon. Bjorn got 2 as well. So congrats. And you, mate, you only got 1, and you're slowly falling away from the pack.
What? I don't. How? I've been 8th the past few weeks.
Mate, the rest of us are just edging away. You stay in one spot for too long, you may as well be drowning, mate.
I'm keeping a joker up my sleeve, mate. Don't talk crap too early. I'm gonna come home strong.
Simon said he got 0. It's not hard. Like Paul, as we saw last week, it's probably why he said he's sick this week, because of how adamant he was that the Eels wouldn't get the win. If we had listened to him and he swayed us, we would have got 0 as well. But I thought it was a shoo-in. It was going to be a 5 from 5. I was super confident.
Same.
But looking at a lot of different comps that I'm in tipping wise, there weren't a lot of people that got those right. So we'll just we'll put it as a round to forget for everybody. But
I was that confident that the only reason I didn't go for my joker was that there was less games.
I was thinking the same. It's like, do I want to waste it when there's only 5 games? Thankfully, I didn't do it because that would have been embarrassing to get 2 points with my joker. But we've kind of answered everyone's questions as we've gone, which is generally what we do. But we've got our questions. If anyone's got a question now, throw it up and we'll do it. But I'll go with my question to you first, because your one looks a bit longer.
Sure.
So with James Tedesco coming back into New South Wales, would you keep him for the rest of the series now, or would you bring Edwards back in game 2? I assume there's going to be a question mark over how they go tonight. That might sway your answer, but...
Yep, for sure. I would be leaning towards bringing Edwards in, as he was selected for the series and he's only dropping out through injury. But if New South Wales win tonight and Tedesco plays the house down, it's kind of hard to then drop him. So yeah, there's a big. It's going to depend on how the game plays out. Obviously, the result and how Tedesco plays. Um, if New South Wales lose, then it makes the choice a lot easier. Bring Edwards in when he's fit.
Yeah. Obviously, I don't really care either way, but if New South Wales go out and win tonight, I find it hard to bring Edwards in. You don't want to change a winning side. If they lose tonight, then Madge has got the perfect excuse to go back to what he already picked, or he might have already told James it's a one night gig. I picked Edwards for a reason. He's what I want. So we obviously don't know. We're not a fly on the wall, but yeah, it's a real sit on the fence one. So if they win, I keep him. If they lose, I drop him. I think because yeah, I feel like it wouldn't make sense to drop him if he plays well. You know, if he crushes it, you can't. But your question for me, mate.
Um, it's Origin night, and I'm still staying Warriors related.
That's good.
Now, yeah, got to keep ourselves relevant. Now that we've reached Origin period off the back of 2 big wins and a bye, what chance do you give the Warriors of making the finals? Sort of like your mid-year prediction, if you will. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are we, in your opinion? And
I just
yeah,
yeah, I just remembered how to do the banner. So I'm doing self promotion with my blog because I did my mid season review on my blog that came out on Monday, where I kind of covered a brief glimpse into the future and what I thought. And out of 1 to 10, I'm giving them an 8.
Oh, very confident.
Yeah, they got 2 buys and 12 games remaining. They only play 5 of those 12 at home, but they're only half of the games are against current top 8 teams. And looking at the 12, they're all winnable, with the only 3 that I and ah'd over were the Storm, Broncos, and Sharks. Those are games that are a bit dicey. We've seen how they've gone already this year. There's no such thing as an easy game for them. They've already lost to the Dragons. The Tigers have shown from time to time they wake up. So it's hard to say, but yeah, Jacko's made a good point. He said exactly the same time last year we're on 14 competition points and we're on 13, so the finals are certainly possible. Yeah, all they need to do is exactly what happened last year, where they went on that hella run. If you remember, they went on that run. They weren't pretty games, but they were nailing those 2 points and just climbing up. And with how tight it is, you do the same thing again. You're right back in it. So I'm very confident. But I think going over the review, I got over all the bad stuff pretty quick in the mid-season review and focused a lot on the positives. So by the time I got to that at the end, I was sipping on the optimism juice quite a bit. But what about you? You got a ranking?
8. 8's what you went with. I'm hesitant to go that confident. I'm optimistic we'll still make it. I just want to see some evidence of us carrying on some momentum after the bye, and then I'm sure my rating will lift. So I'll go 7. I'll go slightly more conservative than you.
Yeah, this 8 out of 10 could completely change if this week against the Cowboys they drop the ball, and then I think it's next week they play the Storm. You know, if they go bang bang with 2 bad losses, then that 8 disappears and it becomes maybe a 6, a 5 or 6. But I'm still on that high of the past 2 weeks. Jacko said win 7 of the last 12 and we sneak into the finals.
Doable.
It's definitely doable, and no one else asked questions, so we may as well jump on to talking about that game, mate. So we've got the Warriors Cowboys. We had our team lists on Tuesday. If you want to run through your Warriors team, and we'll have a little chit chat about it.
You bet. And at fullback, Chance Nickel-Klustad is back at fullback. The wingers remain Dylan Martinez-Lesniak, Marcelo Montoya. The centres, Adam Pompey retains a spot. Rocco Berry is named to return. The halves, Chanel Harris-Tavita and Tamaire Martin. Adam Fenor-Blake is named to return in the front row after being a naughty boy. Jackson Ford is named in the front row. Interesting selection there. Don't mind it. Wade Egan returns at hooker. Marata Niokore, Mitch Barnett keep their edge back row spots. Tohu Harris returns at lock and captain. Interchange Dylan Walker, Jazz Tavanga, Tom Ale, and Kurt Capewar. Another one named to return.
Yeah, so your overall thoughts on the 17, and do you think that's the 17 that will be playing on Saturday?
Don't know. I don't think it'll be far away if Webby decides to pull a Swifty or two. But yeah, I don't mind it. I really liked what I saw out of Niokore out wide last week. So I thought it was interesting seeing Ford named at front row, but it's accommodating Niokore out in the back row. So I prefer. I didn't mind Niokore earlier in the season when he was penciled in as off the bench and through the middle, but seeing the quality he brings, the threat he has, either as a receiver or a lead runner decoy, I really like him out there. I'm happy with it. I think it's good enough team on paper to get the job done.
Yeah, I'm happy with it too. The Jackson Ford one was a surprise. It's in hindsight, it's funny that the two players Webby had kind of penciled in as being a key part of the front row are both playing second row, and the second row that was penciled in is now playing front row. But Barnett's been crushing it out on the edge. I always think Murata, I want to see what Murata can do as a front rower. Thinking future ahead when AFB wasn't there, can kind of take that back a bit with James Fisher-Harris coming, but he's so deadly on the edge as well. He's such a powerful runner. So I'm happy to see that. But yeah, I'm never sure with Webby because the last game against the Dolphins, he named Rocco to start. And then in an interview after the game, he said Rocco was never going to play. So it could be another situation where there's a guy there that isn't going to play, but he's been named. Potentially that might be why we see a Capewell at 17, where maybe one of those other players isn't going to play, and then one of those edges moves up into front row or something. All hypothetical. I have no inside knowledge.
Another situation I wouldn't have minded, and it was actually something you discussed, would be Tohu Harris in that front row rotation and Dylan Walker retaining that 13.
Yeah, that's what I would have done.
Yeah, that's another. If that had gone that way, I would have been happy with that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I just like what Dylan Walker's done. It is also interesting. There's not really any good cover for Wade Egan on that bench right now. Which means potentially if he goes down, does that mean that Walker's going to go in there, or are they going to put Jazz in there kicking and screaming to make him a hooker, which he hates to do? And yeah, Jacko said Jacko in the front row could be an expired choice, high work rate, great D, and a different running style. Yeah, I'm not complaining about the choice. I'm very happy with this team that's been named. I'm just, my question is that the 17 we're going to see on Saturday? But Jackson, I think could do very well there. He's a big lad, and hardworking, which is what you need. Be very happy. But we'll talk about that other team now. There's some interesting names in here, which I'm going to butcher, which I love it. You need to go through all our videos, man, and get recordings of all my butchers. But at fullback, we've got Scott Drinkwater. Starting off easy. On the wings, we've got Kyle Fout and Braden Burns. In the centres, we've got Jackson Purdue and Viliami Vailea. Halves, we've got Jack Clifford and Chad Townsend. Front row, we've got Jordan McLean, Sam McIntyre, and Griffin Neem. Second row, we've got Hilum Luki and Kuli Kefu Fini Fuiaki. And then lock, we've got Thomas McCarley. Interchange, we've got Tom Chester, Harrison Edwards, Jamal Shabaski, and Jason Tomalolo. And then we don't normally do the extended, but I think for them I'm going to make the exception because their captain's named in the extended. But they've got basically everyone that's playing Origin they've named on the extended, plus Thomas Duffy. So you got Valentine Holmes, Murray Talagi, Tom Dearden, Reece Robson, Jeremiah Nanai, and Ruben Cotter. So they are all a chance. I think they're not in a position to kind of let them have a week off. As harsh as that sounds, they need to win this game. So I expect most of them injury pending to make that team, which makes it a lot harder for the old Warriors. But I've got to take note because Paul's going to do a multi on what we agree with. But who are you picking in this game, Warriors or Cowboys?
I'm gonna go Warriors. I feel like we've got a bit of momentum now and should be a little bit freshened up after a bye. I'm going to back us in.
Yeah, I'm backing us too. I am a bit nervous because the Warriors had a habit last year of winning every game before a bye and losing the games after them. But yeah, I'm confident that the confidence is up in the team. I think there was a comment earlier. It might have been Jacko. Yeah, it was Jacko. But AFB, he should be angry after all that crap he did. So he should be making an example. So I'm expecting a big game out of him as well. And Jacko said Warriors by 10, something like 28-18. Yeah, I think in my preview I said 12. But yeah, around that, 1 or 2 try margin, I think would be. So I've marked that down. We've both picked Warriors. It would be kind of silly of me to go against them after I just gave them an 8 out of 10 in making finals. So we'll go to the rest of the round. I stole this picture from League Unlimited because the NRL have forgotten that the regular season is and they wouldn't give us a fixtures pick because of Origin. So we'll go through the rest. First game on Friday, we've got St. George and the Tigers. I've gone Dragons for the first time this year, I think.
Wow.
I'm at the top of that tipping comp now, man. I need to be smarter and not use my bias against me.
I went Dragons as well.
So we'll put a star next to that to let Paul know. On Saturday, we've got the Titans and the Rabbits. I've gone with the Titans.
Me too.
All right, another big multi, which Paul probably won't want to put money on. Then Saturday, we have the Cowboys and the Warriors. We've both picked the Warriors. Next up, we have Brisbane and the Sharks. I've gone with Brisbane.
Yep. Brisbane.
Yep. Then we've got on Sunday, Melbourne and Newcastle. I've gone with Melbourne.
Me too.
Oh, we're going everything the same, Matt. And Jagger said I'm going soft. No, I'm just trying to be smart. We can't let our personal biases dictate everything we do from time to time. You watch the Tigers win now, and it'll be the one time I pick the Dragons that they lose it for me. Then the last game on Sunday is Penrith versus Manly. I've gone with the Panthers. They don't really lose 2 in a row, so for me.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah. And then the last game's on Monday because I think it's King's birthday weekend in Australia. They're a week behind us. Bulldogs, Eels. I've gone with Eels.
I'm going Bulldogs.
You're going Bulldogs? It was a tight one, but I was like, no.
One.
I feel
the Bulldogs have lured me in now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'll be a tough game though.
Yeah, and sometimes it's very weird thing seeing a Monday game that King has a lot of birthdays. Yeah, you remember the old days when we had the Monday game every week? I wasn't a fan of it. Thankfully, the Warriors never played it. It would make my Monday review of all the games very hard if they hadn't played yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not a bad round. It's all up in the air on who's going to back up from Origin. But I think despite all the upsets, I thought all the games last week were of decent enough quality. So regardless of if the Origin guys don't back up, I think there'll be some good games and thankfully a Warriors game for us to watch, Matt. So just over an hour, we've done all of the NRL. We're going to quickly go through Super League. which means Jacko's probably going to go. But we're making good time here. And I forgot, there's already, who are you picking for Origin? New South Wales, like we did last year?
Yeah, give me New South Wales.
Yeah, we're not really keeping track of that. We'll do a little keep track just for shits and giggles. But I saw it wasn't in the tipping comp for our competition, so it doesn't really matter. But we'll go into Super League now before I let you all go and get ready for Origin. St. Helens and Wigan are first and second on 20 points. Hull, KR, Warrington, and Catalans close out the top 4 with 18 points. And no Super League this week because the Challenge Cup final's on, and it's actually a rematch of a match that happened in round 13. So first up, we got Uddersfield defeated Hull FC 24-18. St. Helens defeated Catalans 24-12. Wigan defeated Warrington in the Challenge Cup warm-up 19-18.
Yeah.
Leeds defeated Castleford 32-4. Hull KR defeated Lee 12-0. And then Salford defeated London 34-4, seeing London stay cemented on the bottom. And then, this weekend we've got the Challenge Cup final, which is Warrington versus Wigan. I assume you're going for Wigan.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Wigan's our team up there.
Clearly, it's going to be a tough game. If the game just gone is anything to go by, but let's go Wigan.
Yeah. If Warrington win, it's a hell of a story. We'll get to talk about it next week. Hell of a story for Sam Burgess in his first year as a full-time coach, taking his team to win the Challenge Cup, if that's what happens. So, looking forward to it. But anything else you want to add before we go?
No, just brief chat tonight, everybody. It was a enjoyable one though, and let's go Warriors, and hope you all enjoy the game tonight as well if you're watching.
Yeah, this is just adding ammo to Paul's the reason we go long. It has to be. When he's not here, we always do them short. And yeah, Simon said before I let everyone go, he said Warrington Rugby League Club has the same slogan. It's their year. They're playing really well though. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this quick stand-off with Brad and Richie. For your weekly update on Rugby League, tune into our show next week at 8 p.m. on Wednesday here on Facebook or YouTube, or at your convenience on iHeartRadio or Spotify. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. Cheers for joining me again, Richie, and no need to thank Paul because he didn't show up. But good night, everyone.